There are moments in life when the weight of the world feels unbearable, when the storms of life rage and the waves of despair threaten to pull us under. We cry out, sometimes in words, sometimes in silence. We cry out because we are tired of the struggle, tired of the pain, tired of the endless cycle of worry and fear. In those moments it can feel as though no one sees, no one hears, no one cares. God's silence is never his absence. There are moments when heaven seems quiet, when the weight of our sorrow feels unanswered, and we wonder if God has turned his face away. But his watchful eye has never closed, not for a single breath. Just as the sun remains behind the clouds on the darkest day, so does the Lord remain near, even when we cannot feel his presence. He sees the tear that falls before it touches your cheek, hears the unspoken prayers buried too deep for words, and knows the pain you carry when you tell everyone you're fine. His silence is not indifference. It is a deep, holy stillness, a preparation for his perfect timing. The shepherd never leaves his flock, even when they cannot see him through the night's fog. The Father watches the sparrows fall. How much more does he see the breaking of your heart? When it seems like he is far away, he is already moving in ways you cannot yet comprehend. Your pain is not a whisper lost to the wind. It is a cry that reaches the very heart of God, and in his time, he will answer. It is not always the loudest prayers that reach heaven, but the quiet sobs in the night when words fail us. God does not require eloquence to hear us. He listens to the heart's rawest cries, the ones spoken in silence, the ones too broken to form sentences. There are moments when you sit in the stillness of your room, staring at the ceiling, and all you can muster is a sigh. Yet even that sigh ascends like incense before the throne of God. The Spirit intercedes with groanings too deep for words, carrying the weight of what you cannot express. Your tears are not wasted. They are counted, gathered by the one who understands the pain behind them. God's ear is not deaf to your distress. He hears the tremble in your voice, the bitterness in your questions, and the longing in your silence. He is not moved by volume, but by sincerity. Even when you cannot find the strength to speak, he hears the unuttered plea, "Lord, help me." And though it seems the heavens are quiet, be certain of this, not one cry of your heart has ever been ignored. Long before your legs trembled under the weight of your burdens, God saw the road you would walk. He knew the mountains that would stand before you and the valleys that would threaten to swallow you whole. Your weariness is not a surprise to him. It was seen, understood, and accounted for before you even took your first step. There are days when the soul feels too heavy to carry, when even getting out of bed feels like a battle, and when the thought of another struggle seems unbearable. But God is not a distant observer. He is the one who walked ahead of you, knowing exactly when your strength would falter. He does not wait for you to collapse before offering his hand. He knew you would grow tired long before you did. And in that knowing, he prepared a wellspring of grace, a hidden reservoir of strength that flows not from your own resolve, but from his endless mercy. Your exhaustion does not disqualify you. It draws you closer to the one who says, "Come to me, all who are weary, and I will give you rest." He saw your weariness before you felt it, and he stands ready to carry you. Pain speaks a language that heaven understands. It is a voice that requires no words, a cry that echoes from the depths of the soul, reaching beyond what human speech could ever convey. There are wounds too deep for explanation, sorrows too vast for simple prayers, yet God hears them all. Your pain is not a foreign sound to him. It is a language he knows intimately. Every tear shed in secret is a silent petition, every ache in your heart a plea that rises like smoke before his throne. When you feel like your suffering is invisible to the world, know this: it is never invisible to God. He does not simply notice your pain, he comprehends it, feels it, and moves through it. The cries you think are lost in the dark are heard clearly in the courts of heaven. Just as a father rushes to the sound of his child's broken weeping, so does God move at the sound of your distress. You are not forgotten. Your pain is not wasted. It is a language that speaks louder than words, and though the answers may tarry, the one who hears you is already at work. God does not simply witness your pain, he moves through it. He is not a distant observer, standing idly by as you struggle. He is the one who steps into the storm with you. Your cries do not echo into emptiness. They rise to the heart of the Almighty. And though his answers may not always come in the way or the time you expect, they always come. There is a promise woven into every tear you shed, that this pain is not eternal, that this heaviness will not last forever. God does not promise a life without burdens, but he promises his strength to carry you through them. When you are too weak to stand, he upholds you. When you can no longer walk, he carries you. The trials you face today are not the end of your story. They are but a chapter in the greater work he is writing. For every cry that escapes your lips, there is a whisper of grace that follows. And though the night seems unending, the morning will break. God is not only aware of your suffering, he is already preparing the dawn that will rise after it. Beloved, let this truth settle deep within you. God sees your pain, hears your cry, and knows your weariness. Not a single tear has fallen unnoticed, not one sigh has gone unheard. He is not a distant God, but a loving Father who stands beside you in every trial, moving through your suffering with a purpose far greater than you can see. Though the weight you carry may feel unbearable, his arms are strong enough to hold both you and your burdens. The silence you fear is not his absence, but his steady hand working in the unseen. And while the night may feel long, dawn is already on the horizon. So do not lose heart. The God who knew your sorrow before it touched your soul is the same God who will bring healing before you even see the answer. He has not forgotten you, he never could. Hold fast, for the one who hears your cry is already preparing your victory.